Hi everyone, welcome back to Chess with Mr. A, guys. And once again, we are talking about a very important skill in chess that makes a big difference in your games. And this is basically a defensive skills which says focus on the opponent last move, because without that, um, it's really difficult to play and have a good game, because you might lose the game right away, or you can win somebody who does not pay attention to your move. So once again, I would like to break it up into the three simple steps. Now, step one, when your opponent makes a move, you have to ask yourself to pay full attention to the piece that just moved. Whatever it is, even if it's just a pawn. If your opponent moved the bishop, focus on that bishop. Look at that piece that he moved. Even if it is a pawn, just like in this example, please make sure that your attention is 100% on that piece. Now this is relatively easy, but step two is where it gets a little bit complicated, although this is still pretty straightforward. Second question that you ask yourself is, what can that piece do on the next move? And in our example that we have here, we are asking ourselves, well, what can this pawn do on the next move? And we see that this pawn can go forward and attack the knight, and this is where everybody can focus on the opponent's last move, but this is where the level in chess starts to be different for everybody. And I want you to really ask yourself which level of your thinking processes you are right now in your game. Do you feel the danger? Do you focus on the opponent's last move? Do you pay attention to it? And do you ask yourself, what can that move do? What can that piece do on the next move? Because it's very important. So now, as we can see, if we were to ignore that and just simply, let's say, move the king, or move, let's say, a rook to the center of the board, right? If we asked ourselves, we didn't ask ourselves what that piece can do on the next move, well, the pawn pushes forward, and now our knight is under attack, and it was better to be aware of that ahead of time and be able to predict that. Now, step three says, why does he want to move that piece on the next move, and what is his purpose? And this is, once again, the difference could be very huge difference between an intermediate player and an advanced player. Now, some of the people, when they ask themselves, well, what can that piece do on the next move? Let's say the pawn just pushes forward one square. And then a lot of people would probably say, well, no big deal. If that was to happen, I'll just move my knight out of the way. But this is where this person did not ask himself step three, which is, it's equally important to understand the purpose of our opponent's move and why he wants to attack our knight. Not just do step one and step two, which is basically focus on the opponent's last move, which would be the pawn, and what can the pawn do on the next move? Attack our knight. That's good, but that's still not the 100% of the strength of a good defensive player. That's not how the world champion plays. You have to think deeper. You have to ask yourself, well, why does he want to push that pawn to attack my knight? Why does he want to attack my knight? And as we can see here, if black were to ignore it, unfortunately, there is a reason, there is a purpose behind it. The knight now does not have time to move away, because black loses the bishop. And the bishop doesn't have time to get away because the knight is under attack. So a simple position like that, after which, if black was to ignore this pawn move, could result in some serious and sad consequences. Okay, guys? So once again, focusing on the opponent's last move, it means look at the piece that has just moved, ask yourself what that piece can do on the next move, and most importantly, step three, what is the purpose of that move? So we'll finish off with a very simple example that I have here. And in this example, white kind of didn't take it seriously. White didn't take seriously black's last move with the bishop. So once again, black bishop moved. White were only focusing on his attack, in particular, removing this defender, trying to remove a defender. and the game ended up pretty sadly. I'll show you how the game ended, but before that, my question to you is, what would be your attitude towards this move, and what would you suggest for white? So I'm going to give you 30 seconds and let me know what would you suggest to play here for white. And I hope you guys got this, because the correct move was immediately to block that bishop from capturing the knight. Now we are going to prove this formula, to prove this move from the three-step formula. So once again, your opponent moves the bishop. The first thing you do is you pay attention to the piece that has just moved. Number two, what can that bishop do on the next move? Well, when you start to analyze this bishop, you can probably see, it doesn't take to be a very super strong, experienced chess player, that the bishop wants to capture the knight. But do not stop there. Go to step 3 and ask yourself, well, why does the black bishop wants to capture the knight? Because it's very possible that white could do his step 1 and 2 and say, well, I am focusing on the bishop and I'm aware that he wants to capture the knight, but I don't really care about that, because even if he captured my knight, I'll just capture him back. So this is an example of an intermediate player which did his step 1. He was aware of that bishop and he asked himself, what can that bishop do on the next move? And he was aware that the bishop wanted to capture the knight, but he was okay with that because we'll just capture back. Well, the problem is that he did not do step 3, which is asking yourself, what is the purpose of my opponent of a bishop move like that? What does he want to do? Why does he want to capture my knight? And so the game ended very, very sadly, because after this pawn push, when black captured white knight and white bishop captured back, white did not have time. White did not have time to attack this critical checkmate defender, in fact, because black started to maximize his attack with a beautiful knight move, which unfortunately resulted in an unavoidable for white checkmate, because the only way white could defend this checkmate is either with the rook or the bishop, and both ways, unfortunately, it would not work, because white king would get checkmated like this, or if white defended the checkmate with the rook, he would get checkmated directly with his queen. So once again, it's very, very important not only to pay attention to your opponent's last move, but to try to be able to predict what does he want to do on his next move, and most importantly, asking yourself about the purpose. Okay, guys? So I want you to follow this 3-step simple model and let me know where are you in these 3 levels. And if you were before in your intermediate level, now you should know how to increase your defensive skills and what you are lacking. Okay, guys? So this was Chess with Mr. Ray, critical skill, focusing on opponent last move. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and good luck on a quiz.